Welcome back to Titan Academy. In this video, we will cover responsive design in Titan Web. We will discuss the two approaches for responsive design in Titan Web, Titan's fully automatic layout, creating independent device versions, the device's drop-down structure and options, best practices, ways to set up your device versions with auto layout and manual layout, general principles, and turning off the responsive AI toggle. The responsive layout ensures that your pages look their best on any device. In Titan, we have two approaches for responsive design: fully automatic with no devices set up, and based on setting up independent device versions. Let's talk about the first approach. In the first option, all you will need to do is create your desktop layout and make sure your responsive AI toggle is turned on. Titan will then take your desktop version and start to insert it into smaller devices. The laptop version will look almost identical, but in smaller devices, Titan will start to break the layout down to make everything fit, placing one column under the other and one element under the other. This is why, when choosing this method, we suggest that you divide your pages and strips into columns. This helps with building blocks. If I look at the preview, remove the device indicator in the URL, and then resize the viewing screen, done differently on different browsers. In Chrome, it's inspect. You can see how this works. On larger screens, the layout looks like it does on the desktop. On smaller screens, Titan repositions the elements one under the other. For example, we can toggle between a mobile layout and a desktop layout, like so. We'll close this now. Since this approach is automatic, it is recommended for simple layouts where you don't need to make changes to the positions, styles, and content of elements in the various devices. The second option for responsive design in Titan is to create independent device layouts. This means that you can set up a completely different layout, different style, and even different content for each device that you create. You can, for example, make elements smaller, switch their position, set a different background color, and even change their content by editing the text and hiding or showing elements. It's important to understand that all changes you make in a specific device will not affect the other device versions. Each device will be completely independent once it is created. Let's first familiarize ourselves with the device's dropdown. When you open it, you will see the names of the various devices Titan enables you to set up in a descending order from the widest to the narrowest: desktop, laptop, tablet large, tablet small, mobile large, and mobile small. When you start setting up your page, you'll be working on the desktop device, so all the rest will look disabled. Once you finish with the desktop, you can start creating the next devices one by one. The reason for this is that each device will inherit the content and style of the previous device. Creating a device version is easy. All you have to do is click on its name in the list, and it will be created and opened on Canvas. And its content and style will be based on the device above it in the list. You will notice that each device has its own kebab menu on the right, allowing you to delete the version you created, refresh it, or reset it. The difference between delete and reset is slight. When you delete a device version, it will be removed, and when you reset it, it will be removed and then created again automatically based on the device located above it in the list. I'll delete laptop. Notice how the laptop is now disabled because that device layout has been deleted. We'll create it again. I'll now create a tablet large version. As stated before, this will receive its elements based on the device listed above it in the list, in this case, the laptop. Let's say, for example, that on a tablet large, I move the positions of some fields. Let's say we switch these two around. This impacts only this layout, so if I return to the laptop, you will see that those elements have not been moved. Now let's go back to the large tablet, and let's reset this device. I click the kebab, reset. We confirm. Notice how that device layout was deleted and then recreated, again inheriting the characteristics of the layout above it. So the change that we just made has been reverted. Refresh, on the other hand, is a different story. This will allow you to only inherit styles, content, or both without affecting the element sizes and positioning. So if you've already set up your device but then make a change in the layout above it that you would like to inherit without messing up your current layout, you can do this. For example, let's go back to the desktop, and I will add a couple of new elements to this. I'll add a strip and add a couple of elements here, such as a button and a shape. And I'll center them both. And on the laptop, I'll reset the device so that it is completely reworked with what we've added on the desktop. Now let's say that on the laptop version, we want to make some changes to these newly added elements. Let's say I make the button wider, and I rearrange the position of the button and the shape. Again, this is the laptop layout. On the desktop, the button and the shape have not been updated. Now let's say that on the desktop version, we change the text on the button. For example, send. And we change its color to green. And now let's look at the laptop version again. And you will notice how the button label has not changed, nor has its color. This is by design. If you would like, for example, to inherit the new text on the button without changing the laptop's layout, you can go to the Devices menu, Refresh Device, Inherit Content. Notice how the button label is now updated. If you also want to inherit the style, Devices menu, Refresh Device, Inherit Style. Notice how the button color is now changed. And of course, if you want to do both at one time, choose Inherit All. The third option under the kebab is Reset Warning. If any structural change is made in the desktop layout after the devices are set up, like adding or removing a strip, or adding or removing a column, this change will affect all devices. And an orange dot will be added next to each affected device icon to indicate that. You can clear this indication for each device by clicking on Reset Warning in the kebab. You can also remove all indications by pressing on the Save icon from the menu and then selecting Clear Notification. Notice how all notifications are now gone. The next option is Reset Layouts. This will reset all of the device versions in one go. Next is Refresh Layouts. This will refresh all of the device versions in one go without changing the sizes and the positions of the elements. For example, let's say on the desktop version, I change the styling and the color of this button to purple. This applies only to the desktop. It's still green on the laptop. Still green in the tablet version. If we choose Refresh Layouts, we will be given the option to inherit content, just as before, inherit only style, or inherit all. And this will refresh all layouts in one go. The next option in the devices menu is delete all devices. This will delete all of the device versions in one click. Finally is the responsive AI toggle. You will need to be sure that this button is toggled on in order to have a responsive design. Okay, so how do I start creating device versions? I'll go ahead and delete all devices, which, as mentioned before, will delete all of the device styles except for the desktop. The way to create devices is one by one. Start with the desktop version. Once you have your desktop version set up, click on the next device in the list, which in this case is laptop. The laptop version will open on the canvas, and you will be able to make your adjustments. When you are finished with the laptop, click on the next device in the list, and so on. This leads us to a few best practices. First, always make sure that your desktop version is complete before you start setting up the other devices. Second, complete each version before continuing to the next because each inherits from the one before it. If you find that you still need to make changes in the desktop after your other devices are set up, and you would like them to inherit these changes, use the Refresh Device option to update these new changes. Another best practice is to create a version for every device, unless you know that some are not relevant to you. When setting up a version, starting from the tablet small device, you will be asked to choose between auto, layout, or manual layout. For laptop and tablet large devices, Titan will create a manual layout without asking you to choose. There are two different options, so let's discuss the differences. Auto layout means that Titan will create the device layout for you automatically. It will add a stack container and place each element in a row, one after the other. Once this device is open on the canvas, you will be able to change the styles of your elements, set their horizontal alignment in the row, change their text, and hide or show them if needed. Needless to say, any change you make here will not affect the other devices because each device you set up will be independent from now on. Let's see how that looks. Note here that the elements are placed inside containers, and you are limited in the editing that you can do. As you can understand, this option is not ideal if you want to have the utmost control over your element's positioning. So let's delete this one. And add it again, this time using a manual layout. Manual layout means that Titan will first inherit the elements from the previous device, along with their position, styles, and contents, and try to place them similarly in the new but smaller device version. You will then be able to freely move the elements, change their styles, and content as you see fit. Let's take a look. Notice here we can adjust the position of the forms. We can drag the buttons. We can reposition things and make other changes. This method will give you the most flexibility when it comes to positioning and styling as well as content. So this is, of course, Titan's preferred method for creating the best responsive design. There are a few general principles you need to be aware of in order to work correctly. First, a device you set up inherits from its predecessor only when it is created. After that, if any changes are made in the previous device, it will not affect the newly added device. So, for example, if you have a desktop version and then create a laptop version, the laptop will inherit from the desktop, but will be autonomous from that point onwards. So if you go back to the desktop and make changes to style, positioning, etc., those changes will not be reflected in the laptop version. There are, however, two types of changes that will affect all independent devices. They are a structural change For example, adding a strip or adding a column to your existing structure, or adding and deleting elements. Because an element that exists in one device will always exist in all, and an element that is deleted in one device will be removed from all. Here our page structures have been changed as we saw before. We'll go ahead and clear the notification. And if we look, say, at the laptop edition, notice that our newly added column is there, as is the strip, as is the control that we added. Should you remove an element in the desktop, it will also be removed elsewhere. Notice that element is now gone. So if you want to remove an element from specific devices, let's say we add a heart on the desktop, but you do not want to show it on other devices, such as the laptop, view it in the layer list and mark it as hidden. Shown, hidden. Shown, hidden. Now that we've talked about the automatic layout and the two ways to set up devices, we should mention that all three can be combined together when creating a responsive page. You can, for example, make your tablet small version with manual layout, then make a mobile large version using an auto layout, and not create a device version at all for mobile small, which will then make it inherit everything automatically from mobile large. And last but not least, if you are not interested in responsive design, if you need to embed your page in a specific area size and need to set up only one device for that, go to Desktop, set your desktop up, and then switch the responsive AI toggle off, thus telling Titan to only focus on the devices that you have set up. And that is how it's done.